Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk, and UK Astrologer. This week, we're continuing from last week, where we were answering a question that had been sent in by a listener. And I thought it'd be a good idea to have two totally different astrologers answer that question. So this week I've invited back onto the podcast Caitriona, and she is going to tell us her opinion of what she thinks the answer should be to the question. So here we go. Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk, and also UK Astrologer. Today we have a special guest, and we're welcoming back Caitriona, who's over in Ireland, and she's come onto the podcast specifically to answer a question from a listener. So welcome, Caitriona. Thank you very much for joining me again.
Thanks so much for having me, Mary. It's always a pleasure. I love chatting to you.
Now, we have a complex question we've partially had answered last week, and Caitriona's going to go into more details. So the question has been broadened a bit. So have you ever done a podcast on nodal oppositions? I'd love to hear what they mean, especially as a prelude to a Saturn return. Could you also talk about Pisces, Virgo nodal returns and reversals? So she's saying, this person, my north node is at 29 degrees Virgo in my second house, south node 29 degrees Pisces in my eighth. When I use Astro, I relate to this, but when I use Astro Seek, it shifts by a few degrees. Both are retrograde. How might this influence things? I know 0 and 29 degrees initiating and ending are both significant and critical degrees in astrology, so I'm curious about this too. Feel free to reply about the 29 degrees and use Astro as I think that applies more. I'm definitely relating to my nodal return with big life shifts, relationship changes with my partner, being offered a job abroad, and he's going for it, career and home uncertainty. But any tips for me to navigate these turbulent times would be great. So what's your first impression of that rather lengthy question?
Well, it's a great question, first of all. And it's great to see somebody who's interested in astrology asking about the nodes. So, for any of your viewers that are looking at their birth chart and are wondering what are the nodes, what I always tell clients is they're the little horseshoe shaped glyphs. It's like an N and a U. These are the glyphs to look for in your chart. And don't worry too much about the signs, just look for these glyphs and locate them. Then try to find the number beside them so you know what house they're in, and then look at the house, the sign on the cusp. And actually, I always tell clients the sign, yes, the zodiac sign the node is in, very important. More important is the house it falls in. That's one of the hills I will die on. And your nodes can change house depending on the house system you work with. And that's okay, because in astrology, two things can be true at once, multiple things can be true at once. So in my own example, in Placidus, my north node is in the fourth house. And then when I read my chart like Chris Brennan would do it, in whole sign, I've got my north node in the fifth house, and I resonate massively with both. And it's really important to look at all of this and see your nodes of destiny as something holistic. So that's the first thing. And the other thing is that the nodes are not, they're hypothetical points. So they're not like the planets that are, at certain degrees in the sky. These are calculated points. And some people don't work with the nodes, and that's okay. Some people just look at the chart without the nodes. But I do think it's so interesting to look at them. And when you look at the nodes, you're going down this big rabbit hole. And I'll never forget when I first learned about the nodes of destiny. I taught myself about them using a great book that I would recommend to anyone. It's called the Lunar Gospel.
Okay, who's that by?
Cal Garrison. Okay, he wrote this book called the Lunar Gospel, and it's all about the moon and everything from your moon sign to the house it falls into, the nodes of destiny, and yeah, all of that stuff, and eclipses. And another great book is by a very good astrologer called Jan Spiller, Astrology for the Soul. And it's all, specifically for people that are interested in why their soul incarnated. So the query the person asked, I know there's several questions within the question. So I think her first question might be about the nodal reversal. Is this her first
Yes.
question?
Yeah, let me
Yeah.
just get the question back up again. Hold on. Dink, bump. The first one is, could you talk about the Pisces/Virgo nodal returns and reversals?
Yeah. So the nodes, when you're born, the nodes are at a certain point. That's in your natal chart, and they're there forever. And that's part of what we'll call your karmic promise in your birth chart. And then throughout life, you'll go through things called the nodal return and the nodal reversal. And the nodal return is when the node returns to the same place it was when you were born. The nodal reversal is when the node is in the opposite place to where it was when you were born.
So that's
And
like a normal opposition, yes?
exactly, yeah.
Ah, okay.
So, so for example, this person, I'm assuming she has her North Node in Virgo, and now she's experiencing the North Node in Pisces, which is the opposite of what was there when she was born.
Mm.
Now, but what she needs to remember is that, she has her South Node in Pisces. So this energy that she's going through is familiar. South Node is what you came from, your past life gifts.
Past life, yeah.
North Node, is what you're moving towards. So she's moving towards the North Node in Virgo, but you have to work with the energy that's in the sky right now as well. You can't fight the tide. So when the North Node is in the sign that's opposite to what it was in when you were born, you can feel tested. We call this in karmic astrology a karmic test when you're in a nodal reversal. And when the nodes return, we call it the karmic reward or the karmic harvest. So you do all the hard work for the several years, particularly during your nodal reversal. And then when the nodes come back again to where they were when you were born, you get to reap the harvest of all that hard work you did. So this individual with her South Node in Pisces, if we look at that, so typically someone who had their South Node, who was born with their South Node in Pisces, in a past life, they were probably a mystic or very spiritual or very connected to the divine. And also, this is someone who was probably born very, very sensitive. And, obviously, I can't see her whole birth chart, but I often find with the South Node in Pisces, the soul is untethered because the soul is very close to the heavens because that's the way they were born. They had a very open third eye, probably from birth, very open psychically, this beautiful open aura, which all sounds lovely in theory.
Mm.
This was their past life, and they were able to, manage this energy in a past life. But because it's South Node in Pisces, it shows that if you stay stuck in that energy and don't move towards some degree of evolution, which is the opposite energy,
Yeah.
your soul won't have the growth it needs, that it signed up for in this lifetime, and you won't experience fulfillment. So South Node in Pisces there can be a tendency to indulge sometimes, depending on the level of evolution of the individual, in avoidance, in excessive daydreaming, in sometimes even, delusional kind of behavior, like, almost like not focused enough on reality, too focused on the higher realms or the other dimensions. There can be vagueness, there can be oversensitivity, there can be an avoidance of planning. There can be kind of a sense of confusion or getting lost or, being very kind of dreamy, which is lovely if you're creative, but we don't live in a world that supports creative. And sometimes you'll see South Node and Pisces people become the starving artist because they
Yeah.
stay in that energy. They never they never learn to balance it out. And there can be sometimes gone wrong, martyrdom, victim consciousness, which is things we want to avoid. And then with her North Node in Virgo, what her soul is looking to move towards, because she already has all this beautiful sensitivity and psychic energy and connection to the divine, her soul wants to become more tethered in this lifetime with the North Node in Virgo. Her soul wants to do more earth-based stuff, wants to come down to earth and be of service, tangible service, which means that anything she does with her physical hands will ground her because this is earth energy.
Mm.
So one thing I always recommend with North Node and Virgo is gardening and working with nature, working with plants, working in herbalism, um, anything that you're in a service-based, even health industry, where you're bringing in all that lovely, compassionate Pisces energy, yet you're grounding it in reality and intangible service to other people. You're using your past life gifts, but you're also grounding yourself and you're kind of protecting yourself. And with the South Node in Pisces, sometimes there is a tendency to not focus on details, okay?
Mm.
Because it's like, the details aren't important. We'll get to that later. This is Pisces energy. And I have strong Pisces myself that totally resonate. But with the North Node and Virgo, there's a moving towards acknowledging that, details are important, actually. It's good to sometimes focus on the details. It's good to plan. It's good to have a schedule. It's good to have a routine. Rituals actually are good. They protect us. They protect your health. If you get up and go to the gym at the same time every day, guess what? Your cholesterol goes down. If you have a healthy diet, your skin is glowing. If you have a regular sleep schedule, you feel better and you're more available for being creative and compassionate and all these things the South Node in Pisces wants to do. So this individual, the more she leans into what is uncomfortable, which is her North Node in Virgo, the happier her health and healthier her Pisces energy can be, because the nodes are a seesaw. So we don't abandon one, in blind pursuit of the other. We balance them like gifts. And then suddenly we have this fulfillment. But when she's going through this period, as she is right now, Mary, where the nodes are reversed, she's going to be tested a bit karmically, because this energy, it's not that it's unfamiliar to her, it's that it is very familiar to her and it can keep her stuck in past
Mm.
life stuff.
Mm.
So she is going to have to strive for moderation during this North Node in Pisces transit. She could lean too far into um, creativity and dreaminess and divine consciousness and all those lovely things that Pisces love to do in meditation, and getting lost in alternative universes. Pisces is a sign that loves to travel when they dream. But Virgo knows that, dreams don't work unless I do. So Virgo sets their alarm clock.
Yes. Well, I think it's tricky for her because she's got it at 29 degrees. There's always a panic with people when something's 29 degrees. So lately her north is 29 degrees and 16 minutes, I think.
Is
16
there a bit of
minutes, yeah.
ambiguity about the birth time? Is there a bit of ambiguity about her birth time?
No, she's got a very specific birth time, 5:11 p.m.
Okay, so is it because it's the anoretic degree she feels? Is this
She's
the
asked, yeah, because the 29 degrees, I don't know much about 29 degrees. My
okay.
north node is 29 degrees Virgo in my second house, and my south node 29 degrees in the eighth house, which uses astro.com and she's doing equal house. How might that influence things? Well, obviously, we know second house is to do with money. If we're just saying it's,
Well, I think,
argument's sake.
even though they're important at the 29 degrees, I still think planets at the anoretic degree, the critical degree, 29 degrees, and planets at that degree are definitely more significant than the nodes, because the nodes are essentially, they are just points. So sometimes I wouldn't give as much importance to that 29 degrees as long as her birth time is correct.
Yes.
But yes, 29 degrees can indicate, in some instances, it can indicate, this crisis energy or this turning point. It can also indicate, because it's the final degree of the zodiac sign, a sense of completion or a sense of mastery in the previous lifetime or in this lifetime of that energy. And
Mm.
also, when I see anybody that has South Node in Pisces, I think about Pisces. Okay, 12 zodiac signs. The final zodiac sign is Pisces, and they say that Pisces contains the energy of all 12 signs. So I always say that Pisces is the sign, of complete spiritual mastery, and it's the oldest soul, incarnation. When you see someone with strong Pisces, you're dealing with someone that's been had several lives, before this life. So she's got her South Node in the eighth house. So she's going to be naturally very spiritually inclined towards the esoteric. She's going
She's
to
learning
naturally.
astrology. Yeah. I mean, she's a very, very, she's self taught. She's had some lessons with me. She's completed those now and she's continuing to learn. And I think she would secretly like to be an astrologer, but she hasn't made the leap yet. So she's got a regular job. And I think she does something like
Secretly,
marketing.
the South Node is in the eighth house. Eighth house is everything you do in the dark. So,
Mm,
South Node in Pisces, this is my secret obsession. This is my
mm,
secret thing. And sometimes there can be shame around it too. And with South Node in the eighth house, I always see people that are interested in the taboo, because they know this is familiar. I studied this before. Yeah, you
mm.
probably did. Because in a previous lifetime, you definitely were this mystic or this healer, or maybe this high priestess that everyone went to. But what I would say to that individual is that yes, you can go towards astrology and the esoteric and all those beautiful things, that feel familiar to you, but you have to, with your North Node in the second house in Virgo, you have to make sure that you don't skip any steps in your learning of astrology.
Mm.
Okay? You have to make sure that you really go into a great level of detail with your journey to astrology. And you have to make sure that you ground your practice so that you don't decide, which a lot of people do. I'm going to give up my day job. I'm going to give up.
Don't do that, you starve.
I always say to everyone, transition slowly.
Yes.
Don't like, it doesn't matter how much success you have to be like a Capricorn. Do you
Mm,
see any Capricorn? Mars is exalted in Capricorn for a reason. Do you see any Capricorn, making foolish business decisions? Very rare
mm,
because they're so grounded, they're so pragmatic, and they're cynical.
mm,
But cynical because sometimes you need someone cynical to keep you from getting carried away with the notions you can get with South Node and Pisces. You can get notions and dreams of, if I could escape my day job, I'd be happier. But I always say people with North Node and Virgo, you probably need, two jobs.
yes.
Um, one job that's up in the esoteric, one
Mm,
job that keeps you grounded in reality. Maybe do that 3 days a week and then transition to astrology 2 days a week. And,
mm,
that will give you financial freedom because with the
mm,
North Node in the second house, she's probably very destined to establish her own business.
mm,
She's very destined to have abundance in this lifetime. But North Node and Virgo, you can be sure she's going to have to work for it.
mm,
She's going to have to be in a service-based industry, and it's going to have to be very Pisces is selfless service and very compassionate, but Virgo is boundaried service. And, as astrologers, it's very difficult to have boundaries because you look into someone's chart, you're looking into their soul,
mm,
looking at their trauma, their pain, their struggles, their hopes, their fears, their dreams. And then you walk away and you don't just forget about that person unless you're dead inside.
mm,
So, Lord and Virgo is remembering that in a past life, I had this open aura and I incarnated with it. And every night I have to close my aura and cleanse my aura so that the client I just read for, that can be boundaried enough to be this vessel for them, that I can serve them while still, maintaining my own health and wellness. Um, and like North Node in Pisces, which is what the whole world are going through right now, is teaching us, what this individual probably already knows because she has her South Node in Pisces.
mhm,
It's teaching the world the importance of compassion, the
mm,
importance of meditation, the importance of surrendering, the importance of trusting in the divine, and the importance of, letting go of perfectionism and like being non-judgmental about things and also letting go and welcoming change, and if you look globally at the world right now, Mary, we are in so much flux and change. And you see the amount of resistance in people. And I keep telling to people, the North Node's in Pisces. Just trust, let
mm.
go. Trust that the cosmos have a plan. We don't know the plan. And everyone's like, but the astrology of 2026, the astrology 20. I'm like, North Node's in Pisces. Let go and let God. This is, the Alcoholics Anonymous 12
Yes.
steps.
Mm,
Let go, let God, let just, this is what we need to do at this time. when the North Node's in Pisces, you don't want to be reading the news or watching the news every night.
Mm,
You need to have a meditation practice. You need to rest. You need to pray.
mm,
You need to put your faith in people, in a higher power, in something. You need to believe in something. And your person who asked this question, she already has this energy. So it would be important for her to just kind of work on grounding herself and not abandoning her North Node in Virgo while we're in this, that she doesn't go too far into the Pisces energy. Because what I have noticed with Pisces energy, and I can say this, because I'm Jupiter in Pisces myself, you know, we can be so sensitive. We numb our sensitivity to survive in this world. Sometimes people with strong Pisces, they smoke, they drink a lot,
mm, mm,
and they do anything to, they don't know why their nervous system is like so fraught. They don't know why they feel drained after being at a concert. And I'm like, it's because you have a Pisces stellium.
mm, mm, mm.
They don't realize they need to have really good hygiene around their sleep and their bed. They don't realize they need to clean their energy. They don't realize that they're sensitive to what they consume. And then they wonder why they develop addictions.
Mm.
You have strong Pisces energy and you're not channeling it, if you're not using your psychic gifts, or if you're not being creative and writing screenplays or poetry, or, if you're not doing some kind of meditative prayer, you are going to inevitably go down the road of softening and numbing and dampening all that water energy with alcohol or something else that works, gambling, whatever works, to numb your sensitivity, so you don't have to feel so much.
Mm.
Um, I
But I've
always
had
wonder,
that because I've got that exact same thing myself. I'm a Sun Pisces and my North Node is in Virgo, but it's in the first.
oh,
Um,
so you're like living a life as you're Virgo rising, aren't you? No, you're Leo rising,
Leo
isn't it?
rising, but it's a very late degree. It's
Yeah.
27
So
degrees.
like North
Yeah,
Node in the first, I always see like that was a previous
yeah.
lifetime where you gave so much to other people. And this life you're learning to like, give to yourself, and also to develop a very strong sense of identity. And anyone who has their sun in Pisces, it's like your identity is a bit dissolved. It's like, who am I? It's so watery. Who
But
am I?
that's
Where
why
do
astrology helps. I mean, I
Yeah,
wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't studied astrology. I'd be that person that you were just describing, because that's what I used to be like. But I'm not now since I learned astrology. And that's why the title of my Pisces book is How to Survive a Pisces, because I wrote it so that people could learn how not to date a Pisces and lose the plot. It's not written for Pisces, it's written for their partner. So I made sure my husband read it.
yeah, I always say with Pisces, it's like, where do I end and where do other people begin?
Yes.
Because you're not born with boundaries. You think of the symbol for Pisces, the two fish swimming in different directions. Nobody's more confused than the Pisces about who
Nope.
they are. Ask the Pisces, who am I? This is why, again, Aries, the sun is exalted in Aries because it's I am Aries. It's the ego. It's so solid. It knows exactly who it is.
Mm,
But Pisces is just everyone and no one. And
mm.
I always say Pisces, my mother is a Pisces, one of my sisters is a Pisces. I'm
Oh gosh,
blessed.
poor you. You've got them in the family.
I have a brother of Pisces. I have so
Oh,
many people in my
oh,
life. One of my really good friends is a Pisces. I always say to Pisces, the greatest lies Pisces tell are the ones they tell themselves.
yes.
They'll say everything's okay, or he's a great guy, or I'm happy in that relationship, or they will tell you stories. They will tell you stories to kind of to soften maybe their experience or to diffuse it.
Mm,
They don't realize sometimes they do it until you point it out to them in a really lovely, non-judgmental way. But I do love Pisces' ability to empathize and their sensitivity and just the Pisces aesthetic, I call it. You can tell a Pisces a mile off. Like my mother is addicted to watching soap operas, and I remember I had a girl. on a call before she was interviewing me for another podcast, and she started describing her mother to me. And I said, "Tell me about your mother." And she said, "Oh, she's so not like me. She watches a load of TV shows." And I said, "What kind of TV shows?" And she said, "Soap operas." And I said, "Is your mother a Pisces?" She said,
Mm-hmm.
"How did you know?" And I said, "Because Pisces is getting lost in the arts as a
Mm-hmm.
way to survive the harshness of the real world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Pisces coping mechanism. Let me just watch this lovely TV show and escape."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Every
it
I had
it
to
is
tell.
the sun, but this particular lady has a stellium of six planets in her sixth house. So her Sun, her Venus, her Mercury, her Uranus, her Jupiter, and her Neptune
Oh,
are all in the sixth, except her Neptune's in Capricorn and everything else is in Aquarius. So she's
her stellium is in what zodiac sign did you say, Mary?
Aquarius.
Aquarius. Okay, yeah. Wow. So like when there's an awful lot of concentration of Aquarius energy, I know there's many astrologers believe this, that the energy gets so condensed that it escapes over to the other side of the chart and it manifests more as a Leo. So sometimes they appear almost like a Leo, even though they're in Aquarius. But because she's got a sixth house stellium, her whole life is going to be around health, being of service, rituals, and grounding. Like her
Mm,
soul decided to come here to ground because the sixth house is Virgo's house. I serve. So she
mm.
would be really, actually, she should learn about the archetype of Ceres as well. That's very connected. Ceres is, the
Oh, Ceres. So I thought you said Cephis. Right, Ceres. Yes. Mm-hmm.
yes, it's a goddess asteroid connected to, the sign of Virgo and all of those Virgoan traits. Because it's interesting that she has that sixth house stellium and then she also has the North Node in Virgo. She might as well with the North Node in Virgo have to really, because in the second house, have to establish in this lifetime really strong values and strong sense of self-worth and self-esteem. And life will teach you how to develop self-esteem and self-confidence and self-worth by sending you people who don't acknowledge your self-worth or don't treat you well. So if you have the North Node in the second house, your soul is learning how to build up your sense of self-worth and self-esteem because maybe in a previous lifetime you merged with another person to the point that you may have lost your identity a bit with your partner, South
Mm,
Node in the eighth house. So really important for her to have a clear sense of self, independent of a relationship, and finances as well, independent of a partner, not merging so much, too much, because the North Node in the second house is all about having very strong sense of self-esteem and really living out your values.
mm,
And not just teaching other people about values, but being a living example of what it looks like to be a high value woman. And because she has that sixth house stellium, I would definitely stagger a guess that she may suffer from perfectionism,
mm.
analysis paralysis, all of the Virgo traits. So like definitely having like doing mirror work is always good for sixth house placements. Looking in the mirror and saying things like, "I am enough.
Yeah,
I'm doing
that's
okay.
what's her, Louise Hay did mirror work. Yeah.
Yes, I'm enough. I'm doing my best. I am good enough. These things
Mm,
always help people with sixth house placements. But she is going to be very lit up by, learning astrology. And her Chiron placement will be important too. But I think, what she has to remember is that right now she's in the karmic test, but
mm.
in another, 9 years, she'll be in the karmic harvest again. And
Yes,
that
because then she'll have the
um,
nodal return. Is that right? Yes.
that gets to reap the harvest of all the work she initiates now,
Mm,
so anything that comes up for her, it's like a signpost, and she should really pay attention as well to any people that she meets, because even the astrology teachers like yourself, so on and so forth, all of these people are signposts. She might like listen to this podcast, hear the name of a book, that
mm,
book, that signpost, that's
mm,
the nodes of the moon pulling you towards something. It really magnetizes you towards where you're meant to go. And I suppose because the North Node is now in her eighth house, I'm assuming it's going to be going into her ninth house. in 2 years' time. So what does that indicate? It indicates that she's going to be doing some long distance, a long course of study or long distance travel, or she
Mm,
might be returning to higher education. So it wouldn't
mm,
surprise me if she decides, I'm going to do a diploma, or I'm going to do, I'm going to undertake this big course of study, or I'm going to start teaching some of my knowledge.
mm.
You often see that with when the North Node goes in, and it's just this story, it's this journey. And then when it gets to her 10th house, it's like, now start your business,
Mm.
and it's amazing the way astrology works.
Oh, it's
It
lovely how that happens when you see something go through a house and it's like, oh, that's what that
I'm
means.
remembering though, the nodes move backwards, Mary.
Right.
Very,
Okay.
I'm very
Sorry.
bad. So,
Okay.
I'm usually Mercury retrograde. The nodes
Yeah.
move backwards in the sky. I just remember that. All the
Right.
planets move forward, the nodes move backwards.
Okay. So it's
So,
going to go into Aquarius and she is an Aquarius.
going to go into her seventh house after this. So she's going
Yes.
to
They're going
be
to her seventh, which is relationships. Yes. Okay.
contracts and relationships, legal partnerships. And then when it gets to her sixth house, oh yeah, her sixth house, then
Yeah.
time to start your business.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. That's
it's
the
not
house of work.
that
Okay.
not
So the
that
thing
far
to
away.
remember is that the nodes go reverse through the zodiac.
Mhm.
Now, why did I not know that?
Previously, they have been in Aries, you know, um, and now they're in Pisces. And the nodes are probably the only celestial objects. Well, they're not objects really; they're
Yeah.
hypothetical. They're the only hypothetical points that move backwards because they are points on the ecliptic, that are moving like a seesaw, so to speak. But the
Right.
north node, yes. But you could say that the south node goes forward, goes the right direction, the past life energy, but the north node doesn't. And in Vedic, they call it Rahu and, oh, what's the other one? They call it the mouth of the dragon and the tail of the dragon.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the astrology is the north node as well. And
Mm.
they see it as a dragon, and they definitely don't encourage. I remember when I first learned about the North Node, oh God, like I was like, oh my God, I'm so in my South Node, I'm doing everything wrong. And I just thought I'd have to just blindly walk towards my North Node and like abandon my South Node. And then, of course, when I got better at astrology, Mary, I learned that, astrology is all about moderation, and that my South Node was my past life gift. I couldn't just abandon it. And my North Node was, what I'm moving towards and what will bring me greater fulfillment. And I'll bring those gifts with me. They're on my backpack,
Hmm.
but I can't use them all the time. If I want spiritual fulfillment, I want to hopefully not reincarnate too many more lifetimes.
Caitriona, thank you very much for answering that question for our podcast listener. You've gone into great depths. Absolutely wonderful for coming on today to explain that. We've got a few minutes left. So tell me where you're at. So we've got just over 2 minutes. Tell me where you're at in your practice and how your life is.
Yeah, so I'm blessed to be really busy at the moment. I've had the North Node. It has moved through my sixth house,
Mhm.
set up my business. Moved through my fifth house. I became, super, super passionate about it and really started following my passions more. And now the North Node's in my fourth house. And this is not ideal for business, Mary. So I suddenly got like so overwhelmed with bookings and had to cut back and turn away a few clients. But this is the astrology I'm in right now, and you can't fight the tide with the lunar nodes. So the South Node is in my 10th house, and we call this a draining energy.
Mhm.
So nodes are asking me not to focus too much on my career right now, to focus more on my family, me, my roots, my soul. And that's what I'm trying to do. So I've reduced my readings. I'm still doing readings,
Mm.
still working, but I've reduced it because I know myself. I know the astrology. I tried to work at the same rate, and Saturn said no, no. So I got a little bit sick, and I realized, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening. North Node is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is my chart ruler. South Node is ruled by Mercury at the moment because Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So
Mercury.
yeah,
Mm.
I'm listening to the messages, and I'm cutting back my work at the moment. Still operational, but like I won't do as much, and I will use the time to reflect and go inward more. But life is good, you know, I'm very blessed with my family, and my parents are getting older. So I've seen this, I've said to myself, okay, this is an opportunity to spend more quality time with my parents, my nephews, my friends, my family. And I'm even doing some home renovations, which is nice too.
Well,
And
that's fourth house stuff, home renovations.
planning holidays as well, and I'm planning a little writing retreat in the summer because I'm a writer too, and I've neglected that. And Neptune is in my fifth house now, so I want to
Mm.
really start writing before Saturn comes to my fifth house.
Oh, well, good
But
luck
you
with your writing. Let me know when you've got something down, and then we'll talk about your writing on the podcast. So, you know, if you get a book published or something, we'll definitely want to go through it with you.
oh, I love that.
So we'll put onto the show notes all the details of how to contact you. You've cut down in your readings, but you haven't stopped. So if people need to work with you, they'll have to go a little bit further into the future. Thank you very much for being with us today. I really appreciate it. Thanks, darling.
Thanks so much. It's always such a pleasure. It's lovely to see you too. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye now. So you can find Caitriona at the following website: CAITRIONAASTRO.eu. So it's catrionaastro.eu, and she's also on Instagram. And the address there is CAITRIONAASTRO. So it's Caitriona Astro is her handle on Instagram. So I will be back next week. We're going to talk a little bit about a previous episode, and we're also going to be covering some important updates. So I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye bye now.